Welcome, I'm Dan McDermott. This is Google Plus Week, our unofficial look at the world's coolest social network, Google Plus. Lots of news and controversy to talk about this week. We're going to get into all that stuff. But first, I'd like to welcome for the first time to the show, Sarah Hill, who is with KOMU-TV 8 in Columbia, Missouri. Sarah, so nice of you to join us this evening.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity. It's great to be here in a hangout with so many familiar faces. So great to meet you guys, and
all right.
look forward to talking with you.
Now, I know that you have adopted Hangouts early on in your newscast. Let me just, before we begin, I'll just do a quick thing. What you do is you have a laptop on your desk, and you do a Hangout during the news, which you anchor. It's an NBC station in Columbia, and folks can watch the Hangout, and you'll talk to them in the commercial breaks. And it's funny because I've seen you, I think I watched one the other day and you screwed something up, and then as soon as they went to the package or the weatherman or whatever it was, you're like, oh man, I messed that up. And they were joking with you. So it's a way for you to interact. I know you've said that, to interact with your viewers. So first question is, what prompted you, where'd you get this wonderful, crazy idea to incorporate Hangouts into a newscast?
Well, it started back in July when we first got on Google Plus. My social media director at KOMU, Jen Reeves, said, "Hey, you should check out this Google Plus thing. I'll send you an invite." Learned about the Hangout feature and thought, you know what? People all over the world were showing each other's homes. You might remember this in the early days of Hangouts. They were showing what it was like behind the scenes of their karaoke shows and different things. And I thought, I wonder if anybody would be interested in what we do behind the scenes of the newscast. So got a loaner laptop from the journalism school, and early on borrowed one from my managing editor, opened it up, and the world flooded in, essentially. And it was just kind of by accident, and never really had any idea that it would be so popular or people would be interested in talking with someone during the newscast. But that was back in July. Fast forward, 6 months or so since we've been doing this, and now we have our Hangout on the air every day during our 11 a.m. Central newscast called View News. And essentially what we do is display the Hangout in a 50-inch touchscreen monitor, and we host the show. We co-host the show with these individuals and talk with them live on the air about the day's news. And essentially that's what it is. It's a conversation about you and today's news, and we're bringing in people from all over the world to do just that. And it's been a phenomenal experience to be reading at the same time and also to talking to the people, your audience. I mean, really for the first time, this is the first time we've ever really been able to see our audience and hear them interact in real time. I wear 2 earpieces. I could have used 3 yesterday, but we had our producer in one ear and we have the Hangout in the other ear. So as we're reading, we're hearing the audience reactions to what we're reading, whether that be a child that's murdered or a funny story or anything like that. And to me, that was a really eye-opening experience, one that I had never received before. I mean, we tweet, we G+ post, we Facebook post with our viewers behind the scenes of the news, but to be able to see them and hear them in real time was a totally another endeavor.
That's interesting. So you're listening. I figured you'd be pulling your earpiece in and out. I know you have the regular on-air thing, so they can talk to you. But so you're listening the whole time, isn't it?
Not the whole time, but a large amount of the time. In fact, one of the early days, we had a group, Hangout group, sing "We Are Family" in French while I was reading the news, and that was kind of fun to try to focus on that while you have them singing, all these people from all over the world singing "We Are Family" in your ear. So I pull it out occasionally, but yeah, I'm listening to them and talking with them during the sound bites.
Do they ever crack
during
you
the
up during the
commercials.
news?
Yes, they do, all the time. We'll be reading the news and you'll look over and there's a guy making tacos. Reading the news, look over and there's a guy out on his swimming pool doing flips and then asking, give us numbers. Was that good? Was that 10? Was that an 8? Essentially, you're in wherever space they are, and we are in their space. So it's a really unique way to bring people into the conversation and to meet people really from all over the world. We have someone named Robert Reddle, and he kind of described it as the news campfire. And really, that's a little bit how it is. People are gathering around a common space to consume information and also have a conversation about the day's news.
I'm gonna bring a couple others to ask you a couple questions, but I'm gonna get Alan and Oleg and Linda's joined us. But let me ask you this: you're also, tell us about your teaching role. And tell us about the relationship. This is, I guess, the only, I know there are other stations like in Winchester, Virginia. There's TV3. It's a commercial station, and it's near and has a relationship with the university, but it's not actually owned or operated by the university. They just sort of, both sides benefit, obviously. One side gets a good labor pool, and the other side gets to have kids, learning in a real TV station. You've taken it a step further. I guess the university actually owns the station, but it's the only one in the country that's commercial. It's an NBC affiliate, so those kids are able to play roles. I mean, they're professionals like you, and they're also students involved, and they're actually competing with other commercial stations. It's not your typical college station. It's a real, not to diminish the other ones, but it's really a competitive station that has to compete in the ratings and so on. So the pressure's on, and the job responsibilities are exactly like what you'd see at a non-affiliated, non-university affiliated TV station. So tell us about your teaching role and about how that works with the station.
Yeah. All of the on-air staff here also has an adjunct teaching component as well. And so essentially we are doing our jobs alongside students. We are teaching and we are learning. As we say, we are driving the bus and teaching others to drive the bus at the same time. So it's the only one in the world, the only commercial television affiliate in the world that's affiliated with the university. So we have a lot of people globally who come to study here. Some people who don't even have a free press in their country, and they come to study here. So they are facing real deadlines. They make real mistakes. And it's a great learning experience, because when they leave here, they not only learn how to do one job, but they learn how to do all of the jobs. They are shooting, they are reporting, they are producing the newscast, they are producing hangouts. That's another job in the future, a hangout producer. They are learning how to write, how to edit, how to promote their stories on all different platforms. So it's a really unique program in that when they leave here, they don't have to go do an internship somewhere for a couple years in order to learn their skills or do their skills at a real area. They leave here with 2 and sometimes 4 years under their belt at a commercial television station.
That's great. That's amazing. And any funny stories or crazy things that have happened because of the Hangout? Or anything memorable that comes to mind that you're allowed to say on a TV? On
yeah.
Well,
show? just like you say, with all the funny things that happened today, I had a coughing fit, and so, the Hangout found that amusing that I during the commercials was coughing and had a cough drop. But just all the funny things that happen off camera with what people are cooking or saying. We have a secret word competition that we do where the Hangout came up with this game where they give me a word and I then try to work it into the newscast or work it into the scripts. And so we keep score, and essentially they'll give me a crazy word like cornucopia or something like that. And they're like, your next word's cornucopia, and I have to work it into the newscast. So we kind of play fun games like that, and makes the newscast go by so much more quickly, and really enriches our on-air 11 a.m. newscast with bringing those voices into the conversation that really deserve to be there.
Okay, and last question from me, and then I'm going to throw it to some other folks. You had somebody from Finland ask you, another TV station. I guess currently that we know of, there are 4 TV stations that are doing what you do, incorporating a live hangout during the news. And I guess tell us about the Finland station and what you think the future of this is. I can't imagine. I mean, there was a day when there were only 4 stations using Twitter, 4 stations that had a Facebook page or Google Plus page. This is going to become the norm, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. Essentially what this is, and how I describe it, is a satellite truck in the middle of a crowdsourcing tool for television stations. So no longer do we have to have, an expensive truck in order to go live. Our viewers are able to go live with us. Not only go live with us, but all of that happens within a crowdsourcing tool. A lot of people say, what is the difference between Hangouts and Skype? Well, Skype is fine for one-on-one, and you can even do group Skype. But the problem is finding these individuals. The global connection that we are seeing in this Hangout culture really, revolutionized this space. You have the ability to find people on any different subject matter and enable them to go live. In the future, television stations, and we're already doing this, in breaking news situations. Say there's a traffic stopped on a bridge somewhere. No longer do we have to send a reporter out in time for them, to get there to do a live shot and report on the situation. we can tell our viewers, hey, go on the side of the road. We've opened a Hangout. Join our Hangout live and tell us what you're experiencing. We had a very deadly tornado in Joplin, Missouri, in the state of Missouri, killed 160 people, one of the most deadly tornadoes in history. And it was in May. Google Plus came on the scene in July. But had we had that opportunity to bring viewers in from their backyards and describe for us what they are seeing in their backyards, you know, the tool is so valuable, and we're just excited about its future in that respect.
Yeah, it's incredible content. You can be in 9 places at once in your Hangout. And have you ever had someone, I mean, now they could join a Hangout mobile, not a Hangout. I don't know if they could do this, but they could literally have their join with their mobile phone. And I mean, I could be like, you know, here's the burning building, and you guys, you know, haven't gotten your SAT truck out yet. Or it's like you said, a hurricane thing where no station would have enough crew, and they could sit there and basically feed you live video, and you're getting content from more places than you could logistically handle otherwise.
Right. We have people from Australia going live with us now during at a zoo with kangaroos in the background. People out on boats. People in their cars. I mean, the potential of this space, because it happens within a social network, the world's first face-to-face social network, by the way, makes it a really exciting ground for TV stations to explore this. Not only to, you know, bring viewers into the conversation during a newscast and peel back that mystery curtain that we call journalism and say, hey, you know what, this is what we do, and you are going to see us do it, but enable them to bring their content and their stories into us live in real time. Today, during our newscast, there was a sentencing that was going on with Jordan Vandersloot, and we had one of our viewers in our Hangout who was listening to the sentencing, and he reported that to us live in the Hangout. The potential of this space is just beginning, and I'm really excited about it.
It really is the ultimate democratization of I mean, this is the First Amendment in action. This is awesome, and it's so neat for you to get reaction and to really have a more fun newscast and interactive. And okay, so let me throw it to Alan. Alan Priz, Alan Furstenberg. This is kind of neat, isn't it?
I think it's incredible, and I wanted to welcome you to the show. Great to see you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
I think one of the questions that I have as a technologist is along the lines of, if you could blue sky, if you could just say, here is exactly what I want to see next from this kind of technology, whatever you want, what would it be? Where do you see it going? What tools do you want to help you do your job better?
How long do you got? I could go on for hours on you know, the potential of this space. The ability to broadcast only to certain circles, because essentially that is certain channels. And this in the future, I really see this as becoming a broadcast platform, and it already is a broadcast platform. Look at all the news shows. Look at all of the variety shows. I was in a game show hangout last week. There's another one going on right now. These are the early days of G+ programming, essentially, and I find that very exciting. As far as other things that we could use, the ability to bring in our video or television signal within that Hangout, so our viewers wouldn't have to go to a separate page in order to see our streaming newscasts. The ability to, within the Hangout, chat with viewers inside and outside the Hangout. Right now we're using 3 different windows, and that when you're inside the Hangout, yes, you have the chat window, but there are also people outside the Hangout who are chatting underneath that on-air icon with you. And so we're going back and forth and chatting in 2 different places. It would be great if there was some kind of chat embedded within that Hangout. We use Scribble It Live on our streaming newscast page, and something like that was embedded, that you could chat with people both inside and outside the newscast. The ability to change the color of the backgrounds on the Hangouts. White is problematic for us because it shuts down the iris on our studio camera. We are essentially displaying the Hangout in a 50-inch touchscreen, shooting it with the studio camera. So when that studio camera sees white, the iris shuts down a little bit, and it darkens some of our faces. So maybe the ability to change some of that color in the background. That's just a taste of some of the things.
And that's just the beginning of what you want.
And a lot of those things we asked for, by the way. Yours are unique. I have some unique things that and you have some unique things because we both do shows using Hangouts, and it's interesting. We talked last week about the migration from Hangouts, which began as a fun way to socially interact, and then have migrated to use in a professional way like this. Oleg, is Oleg? Oh, there he is. Oleg, isn't this cool? This is neat. What are your thoughts?
No, it's very, very interesting, and I was just wondering a couple of things just from personal interest standpoint. Sarah mentioned that she's got 2 earpieces going at the same time sometime.
3. I used 3 yesterday because we had a double hangout, and that's something else that would be helpful, at least for us right now. You're only able to be in one hangout at a time, or start one hangout. So I had to get a G+ body double yesterday because I needed to put a hangout on the air from the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. But we also had a snowstorm in mid-Missouri, and I needed my mid-Missouri viewers in that hangout to talk about the snow and how much snow they had received. So I had 2 different earpieces in one ear, essentially talking to both of these hangouts. So I enlisted Jen Reeves to be my G+ body double, and we used her profile account. And I'm sure some of that, once brand pages, possibly in the future get hangouts, that might enable us to do some different things. But there are times, and I can see here even in the future, when we are going to use in the political season 3-4 hangouts on different devices and bring that in. And I totally forgot your question, Oleg. What was it?
That's okay. You already pretty much answered it. I was just going to say you must be a poster woman for multitasking, because it's amazing how you can...
It is. I was joking with someone the other day that I could use a third ear sometimes, because you have all of these voices going on in your head. But as we're teaching our students, you kind of have to become comfortable in the chaos and floating between all of these different platforms. And essentially, you can have 11 different people in your ear during the news while you're trying to talk. To me, that's music in a way, because it's really neat to meet these individuals and talk with them. But you do have to become comfortable in the chaos.
Do you find that having just 9 additional people is a limitation, or is that sufficient?
For some purposes, like for breaking news, obviously, for what people are seeing, but for our regular, 30-minute newscast that we're doing, the more the merrier. And chat brings in, obviously, even additional viewers, chat outside the Hangout, which who knows in the future might be inside the Hangout. But for our purposes, 10 works. But the ability to have more would be, obviously great in a breaking news situation.
Okay. Let me go to David. I think David Cheney. Let me see here. Let me get him up here. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, as I say, I don't typically watch my local news, but if they were doing something cool like this, I definitely would. I think it's really, you're probably one of the first, to do something like this, and you're completely dead on that this is, I think, going to be, a big broadcast platform in the future, and this is, the start of something pretty big. So, if only thing, I hope that, in my local market, they do something like this too.
And that's what we hear from people all over. That's the first thing they say. They say, oh, I wish that I were able to connect with my television news anchor in that way. Essentially, this is giving eyes to social media. All of our other platforms were blind, tweeting blind, Facebooking blind. But now we are able to see you guys during the news, and it is very rewarding experience, not only for the broadcast, to have that additional voice and that additional facts, and hey, have you seen this news story, and Harold Carey posting links in the chat, have you seen this? It's just been a really great experience to meet so many talented individuals who've taught us a lot about this platform, because let's face it, we are a small market news operation. We don't have a large staff. We do have a lot of students helping us, but our news director was quick to put just one anchor and one producer on this program, because he wanted it to be a model for other stations to be able to replicate. So essentially that's the goal, in order to try to help other TV stations to learn how to do this, learn how to do Hangouts, and bring viewers into the conversation.
It is interesting that you're the only commercial TV station owned by a university, and you happen to be where this all started. You are teaching other stations how to do it, and I think that's neat. I guess all y'all. I guess you're going to get a lot of calls, so be ready.
We are getting a lot of calls, and you know, one of the first things that I do with people who first come on the platform, who are with television stations, is I share my circle. I call it my FCC approved circle of individuals who are obviously respectful. There are wonderful people on this platform, but individuals who, you know, wouldn't give you an FCC violation on the air. So that's the first thing that I do, because that's the biggest struggle, is going to be the biggest struggle for television news stations if they try to replicate something like U News, is their local market might not be on Google Plus as much yet. So they will need to bring in individuals who are, and who can help them teach about the platform. We're in a rural area, by the way, so not everybody has webcams. Not everybody has high-speed internet. So we got a grant from the Reynolds Journalism Institute, and we've essentially webcammed our 14-county viewing area. We put webcams in all of our libraries. So we tell people, even if you don't have internet access, even if you don't have a webcam, you can still go to your local library and hang out with us during the news. You can still go to your local library and share your community service event with us. So that's one way that we're trying to get around the digital gap, at least in our area.
Okay, let me throw it to Linda Laurie. Let's get her over here. What do you think, Linda? You should be unmuted. Let's see if we can get her.
Linda is speechless.
I wonder if Linda's there. Her picture's there. She looks like she's relaxing.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. I'll wait for Linda. I think she's. All right, what do you think, Harold? This is cool. I know, Harold. You've every time I've seen, or every other time I've checked her out, because I was scoping Sarah out over the week, watching her hangouts to kind of get an idea of what exactly is going on, and I've seen you in there often. What's your experience been?
Oh, it's really a lot of fun to get in there. What we want to do, though, is Sarah requests that we basically come on like about every other week, because we like to have a lot of faces. What's really interesting is she has 2 people from Missouri and 2 people from around the world, and that's the perfect group for a hangout. It's just 4 people, because if you have more than that, it's really hard to handle.
Mm-hmm. Some of the other things too, Dan, is as far as stories. You know, you think of the Penn State riots. Some of you may have watched that unfold on Twitter. When that was unfolding in the newsroom, a lot of us were like, guys, don't just be live tweeting about it. You need to be live hanging on this. Somebody open up a hangout and show us what you were seeing with the Penn State riots. So we've used hangouts in the Penn State riots. We used hangouts in the aftermath of the Oslo bombing. I mean, here we are, a local television affiliate, bringing in viewers around the world to talk about what happened in the aftermath of the Oslo bombing, and that was a really interesting experience for us. We've talked with people about the National Defense Authorization Act. Next week we're having a debate about SOPA. I mean, the potential of this space, especially on a local level that doesn't have a lot of you know, resources, satellite trucks around the world, those kinds of things. Essentially, you know, hangouts make the world your oyster.
Okay, let me bring Linda in. Linda, what are your thoughts, or question, or what have you?
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear.
Okay. I just had a question for Sarah. That's kind of a strange question. When you were when you put up that you were going to interview Sarah tonight, of course I reshared the post, and I don't know if Sarah gets this or not, but I got it on my share of your interview with her. I got, and of course her picture was showing on it, and it said, "Nice pic, hot," and and several comments that I thought were really not appropriate for what I was sharing. Sarah, do you have to put up with that much personally?
Yeah, I do. And matter of fact,
on Google Plus, I mean.
Yeah, and I some of the posts are actually quite funny, because I think something gets lost in the translation, in the international translation. For instance, one of the post said, "You love me," And I know that translates differently in their country. They're talking about a different kind of love. But sometimes I just plus one those posts because I think they're funny. I'm actually keeping a list. I am, of some of the funny posts that you get in that respect. But one of the most rewarding things in this space is meeting people from around the world, you know, and that's been so fascinating to see in their homes and meet their children and just get a global view, if you will. I mean, what Hangouts are doing are essentially reducing the global space between us. And that's been the best part about this is that international interaction. Yeah, sometimes we do get some of those funny posts, but it's been great to meet people outside of mid-Missouri in Hangouts.
All right. Awesome. This is a great
Well, I
conversation.
was kind of embarrassed when I shared the post.
Go ahead, Linda. I'm sorry.
Go right ahead. No, I was just going to say I was kind of embarrassed when I reshared your post and I had all these little comments and I thought, oh gosh, I hope Sarah doesn't see this. Should I remove them? Should I leave them? Because they were all about her picture and she is cute, you know, but it was like, that's not the purpose of my sharing this. So anyway, that's the reason I asked.
Linda, I looked at her page to kind, you know, when I was doing my prep, right? And I was, you know, I guess the term Facebook stalking, you can say Google Plus stalking her, right, to get ready for the show. And both of you two are on the recommended list. So you each have, I think, Sarah, you've got like 370,000, and Linda, you're over 400,000. That's good and bad. It's good exposure, but it's bad in that you get mass appeal from folks, you know, spam accounts, the whole deal. But the thing is, hey, let me go ahead, Robert. Can you mute your mic for me? And if you want to speak, go ahead and unmute it. You'll be good. But the thing is, I saw that on her page as well. You'd see like the hi and all that stuff. I gotta mute this. But you see like the hi, or you know, and I love you, blah blah blah, and all these random things. But I guess that's the thing that she has to deal with too. So it was nothing out of the ordinary because I see it on her page. And it's like, you know, how many hours a day do you have to deal with that? You know, I mean,
it's drinking from a fire hose. But you know, too, the experience for people outside of this country. I mean, we've traveled to do documentaries in Guatemala and Vietnam, and their connection with a local news anchor, you know, they would not have the ability to do that. So on this space, for them to be able to plus post or to hop in a hangout with their local news anchor is kind of a unique experience for them. So I don't always answer all of those hi, but sometimes I do, just because you never know when you say hi back what kind of really interesting individual that you might encounter.
and that could be a good or bad interesting, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Thus the life of a famous TV reporter and teacher. Okay, well, what I want to do is Sarah's going to stick around with us a little bit, and we're going to talk about some Google Plus topics and some Google topics. It's kind of the first topic is the biggest news story, probably the most mainstream news story about Google Plus since its launch, and that is Google has changed their beloved search engine, and now they're including Google Plus results in regular Google.com searches. So to give us kind of brief rundown about what exactly it is, what it means, I'm gonna mute Linda real quick. I'm sorry, Linda. You can unmute yourself whenever. I think your earpieces or microphone's clicking a little bit. But let's go to Alan, and Alan, give me kind of a brief explanation of what exactly this means and what happened.
This is probably the biggest change to Google since Google itself started. What they're doing now is they've launched something called Search Plus Your World. And with Search Plus Your World, what happens, if you are logged in to Google, and if you have not opted out of it, any search result that you do adds additional social information to the search results. So it will not only search the web for what you're looking for, but it's also going to search all of your past posts on something like Google+. It'll search all of your friends' past posts. It'll search your friends' pictures. It'll use the social graph that you've created to help supplement that information. In addition to this, it will use public profile information, other public Google Plus information, and all of this gets put into the mix of your search results now. It's a major change, it's a radical change, and it's gotten some others, little birdie told me that Twitter isn't very happy about this. And the biggest reason why Twitter's not happy is because it does not return Twitter results as a first-class result. And there are a lot of reasons for that, and I have a feeling Oleg and I are going to start getting into issues about that.
All right, before I throw it to Oleg, we got some other subcategories of this. Tell me, you think this is a wonderful thing or a awful thing or somewhere in between?
I think it's somewhere in between. I think Google doing it, this is important. What Google has said they wanted to do is they want to index the entire world. And indexing what people talk about and how they talk about it is important. I think also it's important to realize that what this is doing is searching your world. It's going back and letting you find things that you've talked about, that you had interest in, that your friends had interest in. So you can now much more easily say, hey, Oleg talked about this last week. I kind of remember it. Let me do a search and find it again. And this is going to let you do it. I think the problem is that it's not really indexing the whole world. It's not going to be finding the Facebook posts. It's not going to be finding the tweets out there yet. And until it does, there's going to be this perception that that Google isn't really, doing what they say they're doing, and that's indexing the whole web. But I think it's a major step. It's going to be tough for anybody else to pull it off at this level. I think it's a real coup for Google.
Okay, now I know clearly Twitter and Facebook are probably not amused with this whole thing. I know Twitter complained about it, and then Google pointed out that the reason that Twitter is not included is Twitter's doing, according to Google. Is this fair, Oleg?
Well, first, I would say that my feeling is that I think it's a great thing that they're doing, and I think that people are making way too much, way too many arguments over nothing, basically, as far as I'm concerned. Because you do have a choice. You can still look at the old results the way you looked at them before. It's not like you have to look at this new thing or else. So it's just one click and you're looking at the usual Google results. So from that standpoint, there's nothing wrong with that.
And let me say quickly, I fully agree with Oleg on this point. One of the brilliant things that Google did is that they didn't switch off the old search. In many ways, the old search is still there, it's still powerful, and you can still very easily get to it.
Yeah. And so, basically what these companies, by, jumping up and down and yelling and threatening to bring, the government into it, to do antitrust and all of that, it's just because they can see how powerful this actually is and how useful it is for people, because people will use it. I mean, people use things like Yelp. I mean, one of the complaints was before you used to do a search for a restaurant and Yelp results will come up. Now they won't. Well, if you really think about it, if Sarah is my friend, I don't want to have some Yahoo putting some comment about a restaurant when I have Sarah, who is my friend, whom I trust a lot more than somebody from the street. So to me, it's a lot more relevant to get the results that Google right now is supplying using this new search. And I think that's what scares them, because they understand the value of it for most people, because there's different, we went from having results showing social proof, so to speak, from other people making comments about something, but you don't have any idea who these people are. And so if you read some books on the subject of influence and this and that, they all tell you that it has a big part. I mean, if somebody says that it's good to go see Star Wars, then we tend to believe it at first, that it's good to go see Star Wars, just the way human nature is. They're taking it to the next step. They're saying, don't just look at other people saying that Star Wars is good. Look at your friends and see what they're saying. So to me, it's definitely a step in totally the right direction, how people usually interact. You usually don't come to a stranger on the street, ask him a question about something important to you. You would ask your friend typically. And that's exactly what they're bringing to the table.
Okay, in a second.
The other guys obviously are running scared because Google has search, plus they have the social component. The other people have social component, and they have no search like Google does. And that's what scares them. And that's why they're doing what they're doing.
Okay.
I personally think it's a phenomenal thing they're doing. There's another thing that's falling into play is the SEO part. In other words, before people used to do all kinds of things to be able to tweak their results. They would come up towards the top of the page on Google, so they would get more traffic and they would sell more of their trinkets or whatever it is they're trying to do. Now this thing dynamically changes, not dynamically, but it completely changes, wrong word there, sorry, how this is going to play out, because the SEO of yesterday is basically gone today. And the content, the way it's being generated, is much more the way Google wanted it to be perceived. They don't want people screwing around and trying to make things come up at the top of the search engine just so people can see them. They want it to be as relevant as possible. So when you search for stuff, you actually get relevant results. And that's why I think they're making major move in the right direction. And that's why I think, it's clear to me why all these people are belly aching, because they cannot match them, is the bottom line. They cannot create their own search engine to go with their social stuff, and Google created both, basically. And so that's my feeling on the subject.
Okay, let me ask Sarah.
Well, but here,
hang on one
here's
second.
the problem, Oleg. No.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Alan. Go ahead.
No, Oleg said something very important right at the end there. He said they cannot create their own search engine. And I think what's even more important to realize, and why the people are worried and complaining, is that it's not only just that they can't create their own search engine, but even if Twitter and Facebook and Microsoft all teamed up together and merged all their forces, they still would not be able to overcome what Google has done here. Exactly. And that's not only what has them worried, but that also what has them thinking, hey, wait a minute, maybe this was unfair leveraging of their dominant position.
Okay. All right. Before Oleg responds, let's get Sarah. Sarah, tell me what did you think initially? You can weigh in on any of these aspects of it, but just generally, this was a big deal, right? As Joe Biden would say, it's a big deal. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, it is a big deal, and in fact, since we're on all the different platforms, you got one story from the people who are reacting to that on Google Plus, and the other ones, obviously, there was a huge backlash from people on Twitter. But from what I have seen a little bit and what they are lobbying for, but isn't there an ability to turn that off?
Well, that's a whole thing there, and Alan or one of these guys, because we're going to get into that when we talk about what Danny Sullivan said at Search Engine Land. Really, really great guy. Ironically, the guy that Google linked to when they first responded to Twitter. His article saying that Twitter had, closed the pipe because they want to double the money, blah blah blah, and they doubled the money to $30 million a year. Plus, they wanted a cut of the ad revenue. So yeah, that's a whole thing. It's interesting. Okay, let me ask Anthony. I know you wanted to weigh in on the Twitter angle of this whole thing. What do you think, Anthony?
You see, I don't understand why Twitter is so upset about this, because months and months ago, Microsoft had a deal in place with Twitter that they would get the quote unquote fire hose feed of Twitter, and so Microsoft would include those results in the search engine. And Google wanted to be part of it, but they couldn't work out a deal, and then finally they did. And this summer that deal expired, and Google didn't renew the deal because they had their own social network and they didn't want to pay for these new results. So I bet, and this is just my opinion, but I bet if Twitter didn't want to charge Google so much money to provide the fire hose, that Google would be inclined to include those results. So, Twitter's going, we want you to include our results, but we want you to pay for them. And Google's going, well, no, why should we pay for them when we have our own results from our own social network that we don't have to pay a penny for?
Sorry. Okay, I would say this is obviously a group of people who are big Google Plus users, and probably at the expense of some other networks, right? Facebook and Twitter. I still use Twitter and Facebook, but I use them less than I used to. I was never a big Twitter user, but I have a few people, key people like Larry Sabato, the UVA political science professor, and CNN Breaking News that I follow on Twitter, and I send them directly to my phone. So if something happens, I want it. And Drudge Report, it sends right to my phone. So I want to stay abreast of things that are going on. Often just because if I get the question, I know about it. But let me ask Pam. Not everyone's sold on this. Pam, I know you're a big Google Plus fan, but you're not necessarily all, jumping through hoops over this idea. Explain.
When I use a search, I want to search. Am I too loud?
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. I want world results. I don't want what Oleg likes, because I'm following him on Google Plus or whatever. I use Google search because I want the science news of the day, or I need to look up a specific thing for work, and I need real results. I don't want to be cluttered with like local results and all that stuff. I find that very irritating, actually.
All right, well, this is the whole thing, and this brings up the one of the two articles that we referenced, Alan, from Danny Sullivan, that you really can't cut it off totally, correct? It's not on off. It's on or sort of off, however.
Well, first, let me discuss this with Pam a little bit. I think one of the things is that if we're doing one of the things that I find when I'm doing technical work is the first thing that I've done for years is turn to my friends and say, hey, have any of you done the same sort of thing?
Absolutely.
Or when we're in a professional network, one of the first things we'll do is turn to our professional colleagues and say,
Alan, we lost you.
hey, this is what I'm working on and this is my problem. What sorts of things have you seen? And I think in that context, this is something that can definitely benefit us, because now instead of looking through a list of 10 pages and going, gee, which of these are really reputable and then which of these are really fake and providing me bad information, or having to use some other means, one of the means that I can now use to factor it in is to say, oh, hey, Oleg talked about this 2 weeks ago and I trust Oleg. Or Oleg talked about this 2 weeks ago, and I know he's full of it on this subject. So it's a factor that we can now bring into the whole thing. Is this going to replace the global search? No, it isn't, and I wouldn't want it to. And to Google's credit, they've made it so that it doesn't. It supplements it, and I think that supplement is what's really important here.
Okay.
Do I understand your concerns? I absolutely understand your concerns, but I think Google has approached it in the right way to try to address those concerns as well.
I think first of all, what is this, beat up on Oleg night or something?
It's always beat up on Oleg night.
Every night.
Okay. First thing I was going to say, Pam, you got to remember you're only one click away from the other results. Okay. I think the reason
turn it off.
I think the reason Google turned it on by default, because you can argue about that, should it be by default on or off? And that's definitely debatable. But I think the reason they did it is to give it a better chance for people to try it, because if they had it off initially, it would be a much smaller group of people that would try it, as opposed to this way, where you actually have to opt out by a single click. I mean, it's not like it's a huge deal to do. So you can still get everything you want, and if you don't want to see my results, then number one, you certainly don't have to follow me. I mean, the fact that you're seeing my results is because you followed me. So, and that's something that nobody's bending your hand to do that. So that's one way you can eliminate me by just not following me. Second deal is you can use this other approach where you just say, I want to look at global stuff. I don't care what my friends say. And I totally agree with Alan. I mean, I'm also an IT guy. There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. And you do talk to your colleagues and stuff. And yeah, I would pay much more attention to you, who is my friend, telling me about a new movie I'm thinking of going to take the kids to, than to some guy on the street who I've never seen or met, and I just see his 4 stars, or 2 stars, or 1 star. It's a perfect situation. I'll tell you why. I was watching Bill O'Reilly the other day on the news, and he, at the end of his show, he always reads emails from some people, and he was talking about this. There was a particular thing that had to do with Newt Gingrich, and so he reads one email that says, "You're a shill for Newt." That was the email, okay? And then he turns around, reads the next email, and the next email says, I cannot believe that you're dissing Newt to this degree. So here's a perfect example. The guy had one show, he said the same things, and you got a complete polar opposites of how people reacted to it. Some things he is in for the guy, the other people think that he's totally opposed to the guy. And that's the usual human deal. So the question becomes, who do you believe? And that's why I think this is such a positive thing, because you get to deal with people you actually believe. They may be wrong, like Alan said. He could read something I said, and I could be totally wrong, and that's fine. I mean, it's obviously his decision. In the end, it's your decision. But it's nice to be able to have this choice, and that's what Google is giving you.
Oleg, we had one comment that I got to read you from one of the chat rooms, the Justin TV chat room. Oleg is great. Agree with him. And funny about selling trinkets. So that's what they took away from your argument. That's funny. That's an awesome comment. All right, let me get Sarah. You had some thoughts on the whole thing about being able to turn it off.
Yeah, and here's how you do it. This is from the Washington Post, but so for those specific searches, you turn off the personalization by hitting the globe icon at the toggle switch that appears on every search page. And if you want to disable the feature permanently, head to the search settings menu under the cog icon that appears in the upper right-hand corner of your window. And in the search results menu, scroll down to personal results and click do not use personal results. So that's how to disable it permanently.
Here's where the problem is with this thing that nobody much talked about it, from what I've heard, is this Danny Sullivan guy, who's a very prominent known guy in the, on the internet. He's got his search engine blogs and stuff. He's a very known guy. He had an interview with Schmidt himself, and he talked about the deal with Twitter and Facebook, and Schmidt told him right there on camera, but everybody's seeing, that if they want to come to the table and they want to play ball, Google is more than willing to play ball. So that's what the guy said.
That's, to be honest, that's a disingenuous statement.
No, hold on.
We're talking Eric Schmidt here. Eric Schmidt has lied to us over and over again about Google Plus.
Alan, hold on. Let's assume.
What are you talking? Whoa. Hold on. Elaborate on that, Priz. What are you talking about? You're saying that Eric Schmidt's lied to us.
We're not talking about Eric Schmidt's deal. We're talking about this specific comment.
Let's talk about. Let's finish up with Oleg.
No. Okay. You can't say that and leave it. He's generally a liar, and then like, well, we're not going to elaborate on that. How is he a liar on several occasions?
About Google Plus. He's been disingenuous.
You said he's lied to us on several occasions. About what?
Let's say, what name do you see when you look at my profile on Google Plus? You see Alan Furstenberg, and how many times has Eric said to us over and over, "Oh yeah, the pseudonyms are coming."
So
over and over again.
That's intent. I mean, that's not a lie. You can't say a guy lied.
So just stick with
I'm going to get banned from Google.
What I was saying was
like
this.
Twitter. Go ahead.
He said that they're willing to play ball. The bigger question that not too many people are talking about is the privacy implications from Facebook. For example, can Facebook and Twitter not get under fire themselves by completely opening their stuff up to Google Plus? And I think that's one of the things that people are just, I already mentioned why I think Twitter and Facebook are all tied in a knot over this. But the bigger question, I think, or just as big, is let's say they did want to play ball. How would the public react to them opening their hose to Google Plus and getting all this private information out that way? And how does it impact their terms of service and all that kind of stuff? So I think there are some implications that people are not really talking about why Facebook cannot do what theoretically everybody would like to see it done.
The problem, though, is, and what Danny Sullivan has pointed out in some of his most recent posts, is that Google has some of this information already.
Yeah, they do.
So for example, well, they have it, but they're not treating it the same way.
And why should they?
No. So for example, he's also pointed out that Bing treats it even worse in some cases. But Twitter, for example, highlighted the fact that, if you did a search for WWE, Google promoted it in several locations and promoted the Google Plus links, and Twitter's link doesn't clearly identify that it's the same organization as this website that came up, and it pushes it further down in the search list. So, and Google Plus's search result comes out right at the top. It comes out right on the side. It's clear that Google Plus is given a preferential social treatment, even though Google knows full well that this link is WWE's, that it's on Twitter, and that it is official. So the question then, the question is, if Google knows this, on one hand, they know it already. They know that Twitter is social, and one would think that it should be showing up in the social section. But on the other hand, here's Eric saying, oh, all they need to do is come to the table. Well, they don't need to come to the table. You already have the information. You already know that it's social. You should be treating it as such.
You show me one instance of Microsoft pushing Google as the search engine of choice instead of Bing. Show it to me where they're doing this.
But we're not talking about...
What we're talking about is the company
what
pushing
we're talking,
its own products.
Look at what Eric said. Eric Schmidt said, we can't do this because we can't get the fire hose. Well, it's not about the fire hose. Google already has the information. Google can't legitimately say that they're indexing the whole web and that they're going to be treating social fairly, and then not treat social fairly for something they already have. That's part of the issue.
They're pushing their own products, is what I'm saying. Okay? And I don't see anything wrong with
that. But that's not what Eric said.
Real quick, let me hang on one sec.
Sarah's
about to leave. Sarah, can I ask you one quick question before you roll? I know you got a game show to go to, and you can probably win more money.
Sure, absolutely.
You can win more money there than you can win on here, and I know your time. I appreciate you being on the show. Just as a news reporter, do you think? I mean, is this going to be a deal? I mean, an antitrust type thing? Because you can argue pro or con here. When I look in the dictionary under monopoly, it says, you know, the exclusive thing. Of course, there's Bing and there's Yahoo for people who still use Bing and Yahoo. But Google isn't a forced monopoly. No one's holding a gun to your head. You just know you're going to get the best results. If McDonald's makes the best burger, they sell more burgers. So what do you think? Is this going to be trotted into? I'm sure it will be. But what do you think? Is this an abuse of a monopolistic power, or is this simply a company promoting its own products in the same way that if I started a second show, I'll promote it here, and if KOMU has a sports show on the weekends, they're going to promote it during the news? I mean, what's the point in building up a TV station if you can't use it to promote your TV shows, right? Isn't it the same thing?
You raise a really good point, and I think that having the ability to turn it off will probably be brought up in any pending litigation as well. But for now, a lot of in our talk in the newsroom, because we will have to get searches from all over. I mean, we'll search one way, but then permanently disable it probably because we'll need to get those, pull it in from everywhere. So as journalists, that's our plan of attack, and that's been our discussions in the newsroom probably about how we'll handle that.
Okay, well, I want you to know go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm headed to Craig Lukey's game show. Early days of programming on Google+, but I appreciate the opportunity.
Where does somebody find that? What's the link? Or
it's on Kim Beasley's, KIMBEASLEY.
Okay.
She's hosting the on-air hangout for Craig Lukey. So,
and does she do that like periodically so people can check that out?
On Friday nights.
Okay, cool.
People who like to hang out kind of go from different programs. There's comedians and all kinds of things. So it's a hangout culture, let me tell you.
Okay, awesome. Well, Sarah, I want to thank you so much. We're going to keep moving the show. I know you've got to get to this. Thank you so much. You were great, and I want you to know you definitely got the kid glove treatment from Alan and Oleg, and you were treated a lot nicer than they treat me sometimes or each other.
They can beat up on me in a hangout. They can join my hangout sometime and beat up with me.
Well, they'll probably pop up sometime, and you'll just like turn 2 shades whiter as soon as they show up because you'll be worried they're going to catch you with a mistake or something. No, they're great guys. I always appreciate them being here. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to keep on with the show. I know you got to go. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see you. Bye-bye. Thanks.
All right, so I guess, do we want to continue beating the search thing? I mean, any final comments on this thing? What do you guys want to do?
I think the first thing what I want to say is
wrap it up.
I don't think it will go to court. I hope it doesn't go to court.
Yeah,
but I think what a lot of people are really concerned about is here's Google, who said their motto is don't be evil. Their motto is they want to index the entire world's knowledge. And here's an example where they're kind of backpedaling on both those points.
Go ahead, Oleg, and I would just say that the old saying, if you can't create, litigate, right?
The way I look at it is when you say you want to index the whole world, this and that, you wind up kind of acting like in a monopolistic way. So, to some degree. I personally, I don't see that such a big problem because, it's very ambitious of them to want to do it, and they've done already a lot in that direction. And to me, they should not be punished for their successful investment of money and brain power and everything else to make things so much better than they used to be. They single-handedly have done it. Facebook hasn't done it. Twitter hasn't done it. But they have done it on many, many different levels. And to me, it's just basically pettiness on the part of the competitors of theirs to try to see whatever they can do. It's the old, everybody said how bad Microsoft would be because they would kill companies and they undercut him with pricing and everything else. So Microsoft is a bad company. They're doing the same baloney themselves right now by doing this supposedly jump against Google, because to me what I just totally disagree with Alan is, if Schmidt, when he talked to the guy, if Facebook doesn't feel, if they think that he's pulling a fast one, they should publicly go out and say, okay, we're sitting at the table, okay, what do you want? And actually publicly put the guy in the corner. And if they did that, the guy wouldn't have any choice to either fess up or show himself to be a guy who is not really genuine. That's all. But they're not doing that. They're doing the song and dance thing, is what they're doing. They're trying to get government to step in to basically give them their competitive advantage. And I think it's lousy.
I've heard nobody say that. I've heard nobody call in the DOJ at this point, to be honest.
Oh, there's so many people who wrote about this.
There's a lot of people that are making comparisons.
You haven't heard it reported yet.
I've not heard anybody officially say that the Justice Department should be looking at this.
Oh, it's so many. If you read this stuff, Alan, you see there's so many people talking about this. I'm sure they're going to be pushing for it.
Well, luckily, Google's a big.
Come out,
Google contributed a lot of money to the Obama campaign, so they're covered,
with
right?
PR, remember that PR stunt that they did? They hired a company to smear Google when Google Plus came out. Remember that story?
There have been a lot of people smearing Google these days. I'm not entirely sure which one you're talking about.
When Google Plus came out, there was a story about this, and I'm just saying, if they're capable of doing that, they're definitely going to be doing this. I don't have any doubt.
All right, before we move on, real quick, I just want to throw it to the room real quick. There was a scandal that happened with was it Kenya, right?
Yeah.
There was this scandal in Kenya, I think, where some company in Kenya had built up a local list of businesses, and apparently some Google employees or contractors were calling up local businesses and lying and saying that they had a partnership. In my opinion, I mean, you'd have to Google this because it's kind of complicated and tricky. It's on TechCrunch and all the other sites today. But in my opinion, nobody high up in Google, I mean, this was too stupid a low-level operation. I mean, only morons would try to get away with this on any kind of scale, right? This is nonsense, right? I mean, this is bad, and they owe an apology and some money probably to the company, right?
Well, first you need to find out what actually happened.
Yeah, my first reaction when I read this sounds like somebody using Google's name. And
exactly.
When more facts came out that it looked like it was actually being run by either Google Kenya or Google India, it's, the evidence is pretty damning. But to Google's credit, as soon as they learned about it, they came right out and said, we're going to find out the facts. And shortly afterwards, they say, well, it sure looks like something was going on, and we strongly condemn this. It sounds like Google's going to get to the bottom of it. But here's one thing. Here's one thing about Google that's really worrying when it comes to something like that. The top guys at Google like being micromanagers. They like being micro-informed. You've got to remember, I mean, Sergey is still involved in every single hiring decision.
No, I think it's Larry.
Alan, you're not suggesting that they looked over the daily call list of Google Kenya, right?
I don't know. But, you got to, for a company like Google that is so micromanaged focused, you got to wonder and you got to worry. Do I think they were? No, I don't. Do I hope they were? No, I hope they weren't. Do I really think this was a local guy going rogue? Yeah, I do. But, man.
But that's part of the micromanagement. That's one of the things that prevents this from happening. Is if you do micromanage, obviously they didn't get to this, but in theory you'd be able to protect from this from happening.
And Linda, we got an update today from a Google employee, right? Although he doesn't say he's from Google on his profile.
He doesn't, but if you look him up, he's in charge of Europe and developing markets.
Linda?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I reposted it, and I can't see anyone, and it was picked up on all the news wires online that there was an apology and an investigation, and I am reasonably sure that someone's going to lose their job over this. A lot of someone's that maybe they were on commission. I mean, I don't know why they did what they did, but I know that Google corporate wasn't aware this practice was taking place. They'll take the heat for it. The buck goes, flows up, but still.
Yeah, this wasn't some slick operation. This was a stupid operation run by morons. And the saying, a big organization is only as weak, or is only as strong as its weakest link, being a moron. And I think that's the case here because there's no way. I mean, this was just too sloppy and stupid.
Yeah, plus
I think it
developing countries, I think, also makes a difference because Google. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you're looking at what they're doing in the States or countries like Israel or countries like that, it's one thing. When you're talking about dealing in third world countries and you're trying to put Google in place where many people don't even know how to spell the word computer, it's a total different ballgame and corruption and everything over there.
Okay. I can't imagine what Google Chicago is up to. Sorry. All right, let's see here. All right, let's see. Who should I call on? The next topic is about pseudonyms. I wonder who I should... Oleg, do you have any suggestions on who I might call on?
Has not changed. I still like calling Alan, and basically that's it.
All right. Priz, would you do the honors on this one? We'd appreciate it if you could fill us in on this topic. And we've got to move along now because we're running in overtime. Pseudonyms make better commenters.
We're always running in overtime. The quick summary here is Discus did a survey of their empirical data of comments that were actually posted to a variety of different social networks. And what they discovered was that people who used a pseudonym had better quality comments than people who used a real name. And
Alan, that's disputed by TechCrunch because when TechCrunch switched from Discuss or Discus, whatever, remember Discus is competitive with Facebook comments, and right. Discus is. Right. Am I pronouncing that right? I don't know. Oleg, you're the king pronouncer. Tell me.
It's Discuss. I think they meant to say it like Discuss.
Discuss. Okay. TechCrunch was using them, and then they switched to Facebook comments. And Arrington said that Leo Laporte's friend Michael Arrington. He said that the reason they did it was it improved the quality of the comments because there was less of an opportunity for you to log in with some random Hotmail or Yahoo username, and you had to use a Facebook thing, and they were basically capitalizing on Facebook's popularity and near universal adoption, and also Facebook's pretty good filtering process to keep spam out. So they said that the quality of the comments and the trolling. It was just a big, uptick in quality overall. So if this data is coming from Discuss, I have to say they have a vested interest. It's like McDonald's saying that their burgers are better than, Burger King's hamburgers based on the McDonald's study.
Pam asked a great question in the comments. She asked what rates the quality and what criteria were they using. The study which I linked, or sorry, the summary which I linked to in the show notes does cover it. They actually didn't just randomly go through it and say, oh, that sounds like a good comment, that sounds like a bad comment. These were comments that were rated by other people who were participating in the discussion, either by liking it or doing or its equivalent, the number of times the comments replied to, as opposed to a number of times that a comment is deleted or flagged or otherwise marked against it. So these were not purely empirical.
But it's hugely subjective, though. I totally agree with Pam. It's hugely subjective.
It's not hugely subjective. It's how other people that are participating within the conversation view it. And basically what it says is people who are using their real name would be, equally free to flame out and say garbage, and people who are pseudonyms have their own reputation to keep in mind.
I think it's the other way around, actually. But, okay.
No, it's not. That's the surprising thing, Oleg. And this is what I've been saying for, let's see, how many weeks have I been arguing?
No, and that's why I agree with Dan. I think basically I don't believe the study, that's all.
You've been arguing the pseudonym issue, Alan, since you got banned from Google Plus.
That's correct.
Around July or something. It's kind of a personal, but I got to tell you, I think it was a bit over the top for you to say Eric Schmidt has lied several times because his forecast of a change in policy didn't occur.
Well,
I mean, there's a big stretch from saying next week we're going to go 90 minutes, we promise, no more, and then we actually go 100 minutes to say I lied. I mean, you can't lie in advance. You used to be able to get forgiveness in advance, but you can't lie in advance.
You want to go that argument? I mean, we could say that, you'll say next week I'm going to go I'm going to keep the show to 90 minutes, and every week you go to 2 hours. And you go to 2 hours.
But that's not a lie. That's maybe inaccurate, but it's not a lie.
Okay.
Dan is not saying it intentionally to mislead the public.
Well, here's the question: is what Eric Schmidt did intentional or not? And you have a valid point, and fine. Will I retract it? Sure. I'll say that Eric Schmidt has not seemingly lied to us at this point.
Okay. I think
is that better? Is that gonna? Does that?
I think it doesn't
kind of what the
matter.
FCC and you
we
do?
always accept your apologies. It's okay.
I mean, I'm just saying. You said, and I can play it back, but I would have to disrupt the recording. You said You said Eric Schmidt has lied several times, and I was like, whoa.
That's what I said.
You know, Eric Schmidt could care two, beans about some pseudonym policy. He probably said what he thought, and then it didn't happen.
Whoa.
What he thought was accurate.
Sorry,
no,
guys,
stop there.
Is this a contest shout louder, or what is this here?
Jens, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Is this a contest who can shout louder?
We're rehearsing for the McLaughlin group, so I guess in a way it is.
Okay. Well, it doesn't sound like a proper display, does it?
Yeah, that's what we do. That's it's good for ratings, but these guys. Go ahead, Jens.
No, I'm sorry. I think if you hang up on things like this, you're going to be 1.5 hours anyway. What I wanted to really say something about is that I agree with Pam about surveys like this being very, very subjective, and I don't really think it makes any difference if it's a pseudonym or if it's a real name commenter, because as everywhere in life, you have idiots and you have good people everywhere, and I think real people commenter are going to leave as good comments as pseudonym people will, and the other way around. The only thing that I think you're going to maybe reduce with real names is the trolling, but I think the quality of the comments won't be influenced by it.
Yeah, I agree with Jens. Yeah, I think that'll be the same. But I would say that people do feel, at least I do, more free to say whatever if I'm not using my real name than if I did use the real name, and that's because of the peer situation. Because if I put in my real name and then I know Alan may see it, I may think differently about writing something than if Alan has no idea it's me. So I think
but that is normal rules of social interaction, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like Vic Gondotra said once, there is a reason why not everything we've got in our head comes out of our mind. There is certain rules of communication and interaction in normal life, and I think these rules should apply for the virtual life too.
Okay, quick question.
It's sometimes not that you feel too free to say everything.
All right, quick question, and let's close this topic out. Or actually not on this topic. Jens, how are your language classes going? I know you're doing foreign languages using Google Hangouts. Is that working? You get folks interested in this?
I have to say that response up to now is rather poor, really. Nothing substantial has come out of it yet. I attribute that to several reasons discussed before on your show, Dan. I have very little possibilities really to advertise, though I'm now doing quite a lot of social media marketing, and I'm enjoying myself enormously with it because it's just my kind of marketing. It's more a pull than a push marketing, and I like that much better. I think with social media marketing, the client benefits as much of the marketing as the company does, and this is always very, very positive for everybody. But another problem might be that that I've up to now only offered one language pack. You know that I work with themed language packs. I've only offered up to now football, soccer language pack, which I'm now ignited to a travel language pack, and I will extend over the next 2 or 3 weeks to at least 3 or 4 language packs more to give the clients more variety to choose from. Okay. But my main problem is still that I have very little tools to advertise on Google+, and since my business takes place purely on Google+, exclusively in Hangouts, that is a bit of a hindrance for me.
Check them out. It's Jens is a longtime caller for the show. It's coollanguageclasses.com, and I guess if you have a Google+ page, Cool Language Classes. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, check them out.
If you go to Google Language Classes, you'll get to the Google+ page. It's linked to the Google+ page.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, we're waiting for Alan to come back. Let's see. Our next thing is bigger video and window sharing comes to Hangouts.
My classes don't get plugged. Jen's classes get plugged. My classes don't get plugged. Great.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Oleg. Tell me about your classes.
No, just kidding. Just kidding.
No, you're
Go
doing.
on to the next
No,
slide.
this is real. This is a real deal. You're doing classes.
I'm interested. What
yeah, you're
classes are
doing
you
free
doing, Oleg?
classes. Tell me about it, Oleg.
I was just doing a couple of things I started doing. I'm going to do them every week on Google Apps. Basically, some general classes. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather here. And also doing specific. So, like last time we did a class on Gmail. This next Monday we're going to do a class on. Actually, last Wednesday I was doing on Google Docs, the word processing component. We're going to do one on spreadsheet. So just going through all the different Google apps and kind of walking through it, answering questions, and kind of gearing it a little bit more towards the business perspective, especially for small businesses, because a lot of people have no idea what kind of tools they have available, how efficient they could make their organizations by using these tools, and that's the objective, basically.
Okay.
That's very interesting. Can I find these classes through your profile, Oleg?
Yeah, you can certainly go to my PCS page, and at the same time you can also, I'm announcing it on that, and I'm announcing it on my own profile, and then on my own post stream, and also I have the calendar set up, Google Calendar, that shows which classes are going to be when, so you can just, it's a public calendar, so you can easily subscribe to it and then be reminded if you want or whatever. So yeah, it's all out there.
Okay.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any more plugs? All right.
Anybody's got a book to sell?
yeah. My new my computer game from 1993 from MVP Software, Towers of Kubla Khan, still available on eBay.
Stole it from you.
No, they did. It's still on eBay, pirated versions of it. I actually bought one just to see what the fuss
for a
was
second,
about.
let's go back to when I was arguing with Alan. You said you're running a couple of newspapers, right?
I 3 of them, yeah.
3. And do you promote at all your show in those newsletters?
Absolutely, I do.
Exactly, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I whore them out 100%, and there's nothing wrong with that. If McDonald's open, there's nothing wrong with that. If I have this show, this is the original Google Plus web TV show, right? We can get 4,000 a week on a good week, or 2,000 on a bad week, whatever. And that's not including live and unmeasurable statistics, but just on YouTube alone, right? So if I do another show, like we're talking, you and I and Alan are talking about forming this other general tech show, which may morph into something else to be announced, but absolutely I'm going to whore this show out for that. Are you kidding me? Why not?
Yep, I totally agree.
What's
100%.
the point? I've done this. I do this for free. I've got $10,000 in equipment. It's fun. The newspaper's where I make my money, right? This is my fun gig. I'm absolutely going to abuse and like a true capitalist, maximize my ability to exploit this program to promote other program. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, let me show you right there through the Hangout.
And if people don't like it, they can go to the game show or any other show, right?
Yep, exactly.
So,
But isn't that exactly what Google does with its new search? Isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
I think the new search is perfectly all right.
It's great. And if you don't like it, you can Bing stuff.
Right. Exactly. What you said before, they're not abusing because they don't have a monopoly. There are other search engines, and if the clients, or Google's clients, or I should better say Google's end users, don't like the new search, it can backfire on suddenly they're not the biggest search engine anymore, and have much less of a monopoly. I think they're doing the right thing. I think the new search is great.
Yep, I agree. Totally agree.
All right, so we're having just a general love fest now. So let's we got to go to a different topic. We're all agreeing we can't have this. Alan is still gone, and Anthony is not strangely silent right now. Anthony, how you doing, buddy? You doing okay? I don't even know if
I'm doing good.
You doing good?
Ooh.
He's loud. He compensates for his.
Oh yeah, he is. Ooh.
He compensates for his poor lighting with great volume. All right, bigger. I'm just picking on Anthony. I love you, buddy. All right, bigger video and Windows sharing coming to Hangouts with extras. Have we talked? What? Just to update it. Anybody? I don't know. Is there anybody?
In terms of news, you mean?
We're talking. No, we're talking about the.
This is
I guess
pretty
the changes in
controversial.
Hangouts. What do you think, Anthony? Go ahead, hit this out for me.
I don't know, like, you know, it's a bigger video, like, and I think it's also more analyzed, but I might be wrong. Not analyzed. What am I talking about? Better bandwidth. Like, the correct word isn't coming to mind, but the bandwidth is better controlled, I think.
Okay. And wow, we're having some issues on the Hangouts, but and I guess it was funny. They actually recommended that you not use Chrome today during the Hangouts with the engineers. But I have no problem. But I use a dedicated machine for this Hangout.
I was told several times that you're supposed to use Safari or something. I'm using Chrome, and I've never had problems with Hangouts ever. The only problem that I've got from time to time, I can't get in because they can't connect to the Google Talk plugin. But apart from that, I've never had problems with Chrome and Hangouts.
Okay. Okay, Alan, I know you and Oleg are very, very excited about the next topic. What's Hot is now, I guess, is it language specific or just available in different languages? What's the deal? And you're frozen. So let me go to Oleg to give you...
Languages in regards to what?
What's hot in more languages? Does anybody know about?
Oh yeah, I mean that's basically just you can just select the language of your choice, and then see it. I mean it's not that big of a deal, except for people who don't speak English. Obviously, it's a big deal. So,
Okay.
It's not. The more important thing is that they changed. The important thing is they changed the layout of the Hangouts. That was the big change to make things bigger and utilize the real estate on the screen in a better fashion. I mean, that's the change that actually is meaningful. So, now you see everything kind of, they still have some room, some white space, which I'm sure they'll use for something else, but they moved all the controls out. They don't have the huge reindeer at the bottom anymore. Next thing is hopefully they'll remove it completely from the top also. And they've got, so they kind of move things up at the same time. They made the windows bigger, so it's a little bit nicer to look at. But that was one big change. Also, they've changed the apps. There was an update to the apps, which are not huge updates, but they fixed some things and improved. There's still a lot of stuff they need to do on the app, in my opinion, but definitely making progress, moving in the right direction.
Okay, let me ask you. I guess the feedback thing is moved to the bottom left of the screen when you're in a Hangout, and that's cool. Or I guess in general on Google Plus, because the more, and they actually monitor that. They told us that. We were talking to the engineers today in the Hangout. Alan and I were. I don't know if Oleg, you were in. I think you were in one, weren't you? But they said that they actually monitor that, and they're trying to make it more prominent to get you to use it more. It's one of the rare Google places. Google Plus is one of the rare Google products where they actually interact with you and monitor the feedback.
Yeah. Well, the reason this was so horrible, the way we had it before, is because when you pull down your notifications, which are on the right side of the screen, a lot of times there's enough volume there to drop it all the way to the bottom. And when you drop all the way to the bottom, your feedback button was right next to what you're typing. And then next thing that happens, if you accidentally move the mouse and click on the feedback, number one, you started feedback you didn't want to start. Number two, you just lost your comment. Okay, so that was to me, that was a huge reason why this was.
It also interfered with the chat window.
Correct. So now I think it's great that they moved it to the left. Definitely
much excellent. Absolutely, I agree.
Okay, let's see here. We've got the incoming stream is gone. I got to be honest. I was critical of this decision, although I didn't use it. And this is a classic. I didn't use it often enough. This is a classic case. You don't miss something until it's gone. There's no way now. Once you hit 5,000 people, and I'm going to ask Linda to talk to this first. Once you hit 5,000 people, you can't follow everybody back, right? And as Linda pointed out poignantly in our last week's show, who you circle is you circle people for reading purposes. That's what you want to read. And she said she doesn't really spend much time in her mainstream because she's got 5,000 people or whatever, so she's circling her different circles or clicking on the circles to look at each specific stream as she goes through the day, and then pays attention to her mentions, and she's had problems there. But the bottom line is, if someone does you the honor of following you, and you want to quickly and easily see what these folks are saying, now there's no way to really do that without, you know, clicking on individual people, and you can't circle all of them. So like, it's almost disrespectful to not be able to occasionally look, at least, or frequently or occasionally or once in a while, to be able to look at what they're putting out, because you can't follow them all. So there's no other way to find the content. By definition.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, Linda, go ahead. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The way you find them is in your post at when they comment. In other words, if they're engaging with you on your post, they're worth looking at.
But that doesn't mean you're going to be able to see what their posts
also,
are.
Another thing you can do is when you pull up a person, it shows you that you're in their circles. There's a little message underneath on the right that says you're in their circles.
But both of these are different from before. Before, I could look at a general stream of all of the posts of people who were following me, but I couldn't follow them. Or I'm not following them.
Linda is a very unusual, super prominent, but very unusual circumstance because she's got so many followers. That's not what the vast majority of people on Google Plus have.
No, but Oleg, I've heard from people who have as few as, you know, a couple of dozen or a couple of hundred people who are adding them.
No, okay,
and the way people were using this stream was to kind of put people on probation. You'd say, I'm not sure I really want to follow this person as I see them, and I'll go look at them later. And every so often, you look at your incoming stream, and if somebody catches your eye, you add them. Okay, what Google has now said is, we think we've actually found better ways for you to find people who you'll be interested in. And everyone who's critical of this is saying, no, they're wrong.
Well, actually, what Google figured out, and it's with all their products, is that people weren't using incoming. I wasn't touching it. Incoming scared the hell out of me. The minute I hit it, I'd have to hit pause. It was every language except my language. And, you know, people weren't using it. If people aren't going to use it, it does not pay for Google to sustain it. And I think that was the main reason that people that Google made that decision. And like I said, I quit going into incoming because there was so much. It was so overwhelming. And it was easier to find people in my comments. I still have wonderful people that comment in my posts that I'm still doing the old circle shuffle where who is it that's not engaging with me and I'm not engaging with them. I go look at their profile. It's really not content that I would engage in, and I moved them out and moved some of these people that comment in. I think I want to say it was Scoble, but I can't remember. It was a long time ago when it all fired up that Scoble or someone said that what they do is when people start commenting in their posts, they have a circle called participators or engagers or whatever, and they would put them in there because these are people that would interact with them and engage with them. And he knew that this was a circle of keepers. So that's one way of doing it. But, as far as organizing people till you know where to put them. But in the meantime, it's like I didn't use incoming. I quit using incoming.
Well, Linda, let me ask you. I'm just curious, and then we got to move.
Sorry.
Linda, as we said last week, you're one of the top 100 people on Google Plus. Out of 60 million, you're like one of the top 100. You've got over close to 500,000 followers. So when you went to incoming, you actually had every single post from 500,000 people. How fast does that scroll up? I mean,
I'd have to hit. I think that stream had the pause feature on it. I don't remember now because I quit going there after a while, after I got so busy. But I think it had the pause feature. But I have to hit it and hit pause immediately.
This must have been on Linda's webcam, so she wound up breaking the webcam. She was hitting it so hard.
That's the worst thing. Oleg, for real, wouldn't it? The worst part about this is they didn't pre-announce it, so we couldn't have gotten a screen capture of Linda's incoming stream because that would have been something.
Let's look at it this way,
Just
Dan.
500,000 people.
Have you used the incoming or not?
I used it occasionally, not enough, and I just think it's. I
David,
see.
have you? Let's just do a
do a poll.
David,
Do a poll. Go ahead.
Did you use incoming?
Yeah, I used it. I'd get a lot of people from weird places. I'd want to see.
You can't hear
observe them for a while before I decide if I wanted to follow them. So I use it often.
Oh, I think it's a Chrome extension.
I hardly ever used it. Jens, have you used it?
No, I haven't used it.
Okay, so that's 2-1. Linda hasn't used it. That's 3-1. I haven't used it. 4-1. Yes.
I was finished.
I'm just doing a poll real quick.
Okay, well, I don't think it makes any difference anyway if it's used or not. What Linda said earlier, I don't really agree with it, that she said, well, it doesn't pay for them to maintain the income. It doesn't cost them anything to maintain. It's just a link
That's not true.
And I don't...
That's not true. It does cost to maintain something, especially in code. I mean, I can understand why they chose to do it. I think what is disappointing is that the way they chose to do it was to just get rid of it, instead of to replace it with things that had a much more general use.
Maybe they will.
But why didn't they do it at the same time?
Remember they bought this company that deals with circles, Alan, not too long ago?
Yes,
Maybe that's the move.
I mean, the question though is if they did it, why did they pull one chunk of code out and not immediately replace it with something else?
Because
I mean that's really the question. When they pulled whatever their I can't even remember what it was called anymore. The thing that they replaced search with. When they brought search in, they brought a much better and general tool in to replace a tool that wasn't heavily used.
Right.
Sparks, that's it. Because very few people were using Sparks. They replaced it with a tool that was more general, that did more or less the same thing, and then a whole lot more. Incoming was a place where not too many people were using it, but it served a very valid function, and a much more general function is what people have been asking for 6 months now.
I don't know.
Why didn't they replace one with the other?
I don't know. How did you use it? What did you do? What do you normally do when you get people to circle you? What do you do with them? If you don't mind
What did I
asking.
do with them?
Yeah.
Personally, I tended to ignore incoming. Every so often I would look there, but I tended not to use it because I've got plenty of people that I'm already following.
But if somebody is just following you and says, you've been circled by some person, do you then go and look at them, or do you just ignore it?
It depends.
Okay. In my case, I always look at that. And then I make my decision if I'm going to follow them or not, and I'm done. So that's what I'm saying. I don't need the incoming, because if I don't like what they're saying right now, it's not going to change.
I didn't agree with Oleg in one thing, that if somebody circles me, I always look at everybody who circles me. I go first
Exactly.
through
That's
his,
what I do.
I go first through his about page, see what he writes there. If he's got nothing filled in there, and whatever, he's usually out anyway. But even then, I usually go at least through their first 15, 20 posts, just to find out what they're usually posting about, and if it might interest me what they usually talk about. And
Exactly. That's exactly what I do.
According to that, I circle them. Oh, now Ellen is unfortunately gone, because I don't know an awful lot about coding or anything, but Oleg, I think you do, so you might be able to answer. Does it really cost money to maintain an incoming stream like that?
No, I don't think it really costs any money, because they already have all these posts that are shown in other places anyway. It's not like they have to do something special. They just have another, and they already have the code in place. So it certainly wouldn't cost them any more.
Alan said maintain.
Guys, I don't know if you can hear me at all. Can you hear me? All right. All right, here's the deal. The Hangout has crashed. Let's see here. Let's see. It says the following pages are becoming unresponsive. Plugin unresponsive. Google Talk plugin. They warned us today you shouldn't use Chrome for a Google Hangout. So it appears that I've done that. And I'm just showing you what I'm looking at here. This is the Hangout. It's totally frozen. The following, the two bots there, and then the following pages become unresponsive. You can wait for them to become responsive or kill them. And I'm going to say kill pages. And so we didn't get to our last topic, which was the Twitter, or the minimum age topic, but it was kind of a hoax. It was just sort of an interesting story. Someone put something out there that we're going to finally address the under 18 issue, but it turned out to be a fake post. So anyway, I want to thank Sarah Hill from KOMU-TV in Missouri. It was a wonderful show, really insightful, interesting person. And I want to thank all you folks for listening, as you do every week. This is great. I think this was episode 26, so it's been 6 months, I guess, if I do the math correctly, without my Android calculator, which is charging. But anyway, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited that I did not get attacked by any stink bugs tonight. So this is a rare occasion indeed. So anyway, thank you so much, and I will catch you next week, Friday night, for another edition of Google Plus Week.